Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. JC here with another video on Action Taimanin. Today, we're gonna check how to play with Ragnarok. But before we start, don't forget to leave a like, share, and subscribe if you enjoy the content. So, Ragnarok Shinmari is an assist-type demon character, which means that she's going to be uh, able to use a bunch of good supporters. While Assist doesn't have that many supporters that enhances this specific color, there is one notable supporter that gives a tremendous buff that gives a ton of damage. And Demon is one of the best enhanced traits in the game, thanks to the amount of supporters that help them. So she's gonna have no trouble dealing damage, and you're gonna see that in a moment. So let's check her kit, starting with her leader skill. So, Frozen Phantom deals additional 20% damage to frozen enemies, heals 0.5% of max HP when attacking a frozen enemy. So this is really strong. She does not have a healing skill. I have to say that from the very beginning, but thanks to this leader skill, she doesn't need it. Her main gimmick, as you may have foreseen, is to freeze the enemies, and it is really easy to do it. There's actually like very few skills that do not freeze, or well, there are some skills that are meant to support that do not freeze the enemy, but the main damaging skills are going to freeze the enemy. And basically there's ways to make her so that she doesn't freeze, but it is unlikely that you will not freeze. So let's start with the first skill, which is going to be a basic enhancer. This is Phantom Swordsmanship Frostbite. Frostbite is the melee version of the basic enhancer. This is going to enhance the speed by 5% with one supporter. It's going to further enhance the speed of normal attacks by an additional 10% with two supporters, and as usual it increases particle charge with three supporters by 50%. So this skill is decent to use, not required, but if you want to use your basics, you might as well use this one, especially if you take a melee approach. Then, Frosty Gale. Frosty Gale is the first pure color skill. It's going to be blue. It's a range attack, hold attack during normal attacks, 12-second cooldown, swings the blade 3 times in front, firing sword aura that freezes the enemies when hit. So yeah, this is going to freeze the enemy, which is going to be extremely useful. It's going to enable her on blue. Basically all of her color skills are able to freeze the enemy, which is nice. And this one says, on 1 blue adds 2 additional attacks. 2 blue reduces the enemy's speed by 20% for 10 seconds. 3 blue increases critical rate by 50%. So obviously this is the one that is going to deal the least damage because it doesn't have a damage multiplier. But blue has some pretty aggressive supporters, so you can compensate the lack of damage, fortunately. This is a skill you want to use when you're next to the enemy, or you can also use it as to start your battle, because you freeze the enemy, then you get near to the enemy, and then you attack the enemy. So it is pretty easy to use. Then we have the other basic enhancer, which is Phantom Swordsmanship Ice Wave. Ice Wave is going to be the range version of the basic enhancer. With one supporter increases damage by 10%, 2 supporters increase damage by 20%, and 3 supporters increase particle charge by 50%. So this one is kind of weird. Honestly, I don't like the animation / AoE, because it literally does 4 different kinds of attacks. First, she launches piece of ice into the enemy. Then it attacks with some snowflakes on the spot of the enemy or something like that. I think it's that. Then it does these icicles, and lastly it does this slash with the sword. I would have preferred that everything was a slash. It would have been easier to understand the AoE, but it is usable if you want that. Honestly, I have tested it and I don't like this one in particular, but it is not a big deal. Then, Cold Tempest. Cold Tempest is gonna be the pure red skill. It's a hold attack, melee attack, 13-second cooldown, performs a charging attack, doing additional attacks to enemies hit, freezing them. Then, with 1 red, increases the area of attack by 25%. 2 red, increases speed by 20% for 10 seconds. 3 red, increases critical damage by 250%. So this is pretty nice for crit builds, and there are some ways to crit with red. The only thing that I don't like about this is the fact that if you see the animation, you also attack behind your starting position, which is kind of weird. Usually, you're gonna position yourself so that you hit everything in front of you. So the ability to hit something behind you is kind of weird and also unnecessary to some degree. Even so, it's usable, and it's particularly good when there are multiple enemies, because you're going to be able to attack something that is coming behind you, and that's fine, but I don't know, it's kind of weird, because you usually position yourself to hit everything in front. That's the only thing. This deals a tremendous amount of damage, and again, a pure skill that freezes the enemy. Keep that in mind. Then we have Freezing Slash. Freezing Slash is gonna be your main color skill. It's a dash attack, melee attack, 10-second cooldown, dash to the front, swinging the blade to perform a consecutive attack. Main green increases the damage by 10% for 7 seconds. Main blue reduces the enemy's speed by 10% for 7 seconds. Main red adds 1 additional charge attack. So yeah, for the most part pretty good. The red one isn't as impactful, but I mean it's a little bit more damage, so it's fine. Then, besides, you have to take into consideration that red allows you to increase your speed, so you're gonna be able to perform the skill faster, so it is okay to do an extra attack because you're gonna do the attack faster. Then, we have Icicle Zone. This is the perfect dodge. Immediately before enemy attacks, dodge, range attack, 12-second cooldown, summons a nice crystal that remains on the spot after an extreme dodge for 3 seconds that attacks and freezes the enemies. Crystal area is increased when the slot effect is applied. So this is the slot effect skill, the one that requires 3 from the same color, and this is extremely good. So 3 green increases damage by 20% for 10 seconds. Pretty aggressive and pretty good. 3 blue increases crystal duration by 1 second. You might think that's not that useful, but it actually is. Freezing, extending the duration of freezing is extremely useful. And the last one, increases speed by 20% for 10 seconds. You can use this, yes, but for the most part, you don't want to. It depends on the situation, because the value of this skill is diminished because it overlaps with this buff on red. Though, if you're gonna keep equip it on red, is not for the speed buff, but rather the ability to freeze and do that perfect dodge while dealing damage. An important thing to take into consideration is that most of her skills that are able to freeze have a tremendous amount of multi-hits, and each hit freezes. So this is devastating. You're constantly dealing damage while keeping the enemy in place, as you can see. Then, Snowstorm. Snowstorm is going to be the pure green skill. Hold the bait, range attack, 16-second cooldowns. conjures a blizzard in front that deals continuous damage for 4 seconds and freezes the enemies attacked by the blizzard. Increases the duration of the blizzard by 2 seconds, increases area of attack by 25%, and increases skill damage by 150% with 3 green supporters. So this one is extremely good. On green, you're getting that amazing damage increase, which means you can go green on BR. And not only that, these skills, similar to the other ones, have a good amount of multi-hit that is going to keep the enemy in place while they receive damage. So it is pretty great. 6 seconds the duration if you have 1 green, that you're gonna have 1 green. But the issue is the big cooldown. It is really long, and you're gonna notice that. So there is one skill that you might want to consider, so that you can transition into your skills with the right timing, and that's Frost Wind. Hold attack, range attack, 11-second cooldowns, performs icicles and fires them towards an enemy in front, performing a consecutive attack. 2 green increases damage by 20% for 7 seconds. 2 blue reduces the enemy's speed by 20% for 7 seconds. 2 red increase attack range by 20% by 20%. I'm gonna go back to this skill in a moment when we reach the awakening skill, because they have something in common. Then we have the triple color skill. So that's freezing spear, range attack, double dash, 9-second cooldowns. Summons an icicle that continuously attacks the enemy when hit by charging forward slowly. Green increases AoE by 25%. Blue reduces skill cooldown by 20%, and red increases skill damage by 25%. While this skill can be really useful, you have to remember that this is not going to freeze the enemy. So if you're going triple colors, just remember that, or well, even mixed colors, the pure colors are the ones that freeze the enemy. Also, the slot effect, which is going to be a pure color skill too. So if you notice, you are not going to be able to freeze if you go rainbow. Keep that in mind. Lastly, we have Absolute Zero, the awakening skill, which is a hold evade, melee attack, 12-second cooldown, 12-second cooldown, and it summons an ice to freeze enemies in front and attack by leaping where the ice has been summoned. So 2 green increases the attack range by 30%, 2 blue makes the enemy groggy, 2 red increases speed by 20% for 10 seconds. So here's the thing that you have to take into consideration. As usual, there's going to be commands that are not going to be able to that are going to overlap, so you're not going to be able to use them on the same build. So you cannot use Snowstorm on with Absolute Zero because they have the same command, but that's a good thing. You usually want to go with the Pure Color skill on a Pure Color build, and you only get range damage increase, which isn't that impactful. So you're incentivized to not use Absolute Zero on green. You can, but like, what's the reason to do so? You tell me. Then, Frostwind has exactly the same characteristic. Look, on red, hold attack. Hold attack, red. So, you don't want to use this one either. You don't gain that much advantage. There might be some particular situations when where you want to use this on green and this one on red, but I think it's gonna be pretty niche overall. Also, be careful with the buffs and debuffs that you're applying, because most of them have the same percentage and duration, and that means that they're gonna be they're not going to be multiple buffs. They just reset the cooldown. For example, this is 10-second, 20%, 10-second, 20%. So if you use these two skills on a red one, you're not going to be getting a 40% speed increase. So keep that in mind. Then 7 seconds, 10%. These ones you can have both, which is nice. Both speed reductions and both damage increase. But this damage increase you cannot use next to this one. So that's something to take into consideration. And this speed increase overlaps again with this one and with this one. So yeah, honestly, I think like they overdid it with the overlapping buffs with this. There's few flaws in the kit. Honestly, this is not like the most appealing basic enhancer in my opinion. This one has that wacky back attack, but it is acceptable nonetheless. And then there's the buff situation. But overall, it's pretty good. And something that you may have noticed is that there's no counterattack. I love that there's no counterattack. We don't want to use counterattacks. So, anyways, that's Ragnarok's kit. As you can see, she's pretty oppressive, pretty good. And we'll talk about the weapons at the very end, as usual. But right now, let's go with the builds. So we're gonna start with a red one. For the red one, we'll use Cold Tempest, Absolute Zero, and the basic enhancer. You can change this. You can go Cold Tempest, Icicle Zone, and Freezing Slash. And I'm gonna do the run later. The thing is, as I mentioned, that we receive the same speed increase percentage, which is not nice because we cannot become super fast because we just reset the timer of the buffs. But at least you're gonna be constantly fast. That's a good thing. So for supporters, I'm going to use Shirayuki. I'm also going to use Fuyutsuki, and I'm going to use Barretta. I'm using Barretta just like that because I can. Because my weapons. For the weapons, I'm going to be using the Momochi weapon 5 out of 5 plus 15 and the Christmas weapon 5 out of 5 plus 15. So, with critical Magatamas, critical damage, water, the usual. But the thing is, if you don't have high S level, high enchantment, perhaps you want to change the main for, if you have this one, an Rose. An Rose is an excellent option. You don't have an Rose? Well, I hope you have Prophet Eleanor. She's another red supporter that increases critical rate. But after that, you don't have many options to increase critical rate. Actually, I don't think there's anything at all that increases critical rate. So, I mean, there's... where is she? I don't have her. Here she is. Yeah, there's this, but it is for suppress, and we're not suppressed. So, honestly, the best thing that you can do is enchant your weapons and enhance their S level. But there are these two supporters in case you need that extra critical rate so that you can use your Barretta. Here I have Fuyutsuki and Barretta, but you can go with different things depending on your build. You can go with Yukina, but don't use Yukina if you have the basic enhancer. You can go with Stella. You can go with Susune if you have the Momochi weapon. I mean, technically there's the freeze debuff too to take into consideration, but I'm not sure how the interaction works with supporters that proc on debuff, because the moment you hit it also disappears. If you focus on the range build, you can go with Waver and Granny. So, if you're fighting a demon, there's Lina. So there's options for sure. So, stats of the customs, stat training, and now let's do a super quick run. Honestly, this is gonna be extremely fast, guys. Shinmaru is just that good. And I just disconnected my controller. So, wait. Oh, nice! It is not doing crazy stuff. Oh, wait a moment. No, it is. Wait a second. Wait just 1 second. And there we go. I think I'm there. So as you can see, the AoE is disgustingly good. And the idea is that you use your skills and then you start to abuse the basics. There's the ability to use, what's the name? Fuma. The red one of the first supporters. The one that enhances basic attacks when the enemy is debuff, um, similar to Susune, but only for basics. I forgot her name, Fuman, and I just named her on the character videos. So well, anyways, I just do this, and as you can see, Edwin is permafrost, and there we go. Nice, super easy. And not to mention, I'm gonna show you something. It is disgustingly broken. I do the same here, and I use my ultimate and I skip the animation, and voila. Oh well, it didn't crit. If it had crit, Edwin wouldn't be dead. Just so that you know. Uh, but it is extra OP, this combo, because you deal double damage when the enemy is frozen and you use your ulti, so you deal double damage with the ulti. That's broken. So yeah, and now I'm gonna do the same build. Well, I'm gonna do some changes. Like I can just do this and go with Yukina instead, because I'm going to change this for the dash attack, and I'm gonna use instead of absolute zero, I'm gonna use icicle zone. Icicle zone you want to use when the enemy is too oppressive and it's always gonna be next to you. I think that Shinmari has some amount of super armor, but technically she should have less super armor than other characters. It doesn't feel as vulnerable, not weak, as vulnerable as someone like Rin or Nagi, but she can get interrupted at the start of some of her attacks, which is okay because her freeze is just broken due to the amount of multi hits. So I wouldn't mind if she has a weakness, but she doesn't, fortunately, like too much. I mean, she has enough super armor. And there we go. Nice. Pretty strong. And done. And now I get right here so that everyone targets me, and I just wait a second and done. And look at that. Well, that was pretty fast, right guys? You see what I mean when I say she's broken? And I'm not using the pack weapon. Yeah, I'm using the Momochi weapon, but you know what? You don't need the Momochi weapon. She is fortunate enough to have a critical weapon. Use the critical weapon and you're done. Not only she's not only good as a pay-to-win character, she's also good as an F2P character. She's just brokenly good. I'm really glad that that's the case. Now, let's go with blue. Blue is silly. Pretty silly. Let's see. Yeah. So, the same weapon, same Magatamas. Now we're gonna use Frozen Wind with Icicle Zone and Frosty Gale. What's the deal with this one? This is more of a melee build, but close range build, because all of these are range attacks, but it's close range. But this one is to start the battle. You start by debuffing the enemy, then you can get near them and you either use Icicle Zone or Frosty Gale. Preferably use Icicle Zone first, but it depends on the AI. If they're going to attack you, you can use it. If not, you start with Frosty Gale, and it's gonna deal a ton of damage. I'm going extremely pay to win, and I rose Kirara and New Year Felicia. New Year Felicia is the one that you definitely want. And you can use some other options. For example, you cannot use, unfortunately, Kurenai because of her natural healing. But you can use Sayaneo, Arbella. You can use Reina. Of course, you can use Reina. You can use Sakuya. You can use Onigumo. I mean, the big three are always our option. You can use Hebiko. So yeah, there we have it. So let's just eliminate the enemy. Again, this one is gonna perform a little bit worse by comparison because it doesn't have a damage multiplier. But we have the freezing, so no issues. Oh yeah, it's during melee attacks. Yeah, during normal attacks. I forgot the command. Something that I like is that she doesn't have convoluted commands. For the most part, it's pretty easy. I haven't memorized them all yet, but she's pretty easy to use. So, okay, nice. Okay, I was able to inflict the debuff, and that's what really matters about this one. Ah, nice! He summoned the bats. Excellent. And yeah, as you can see, it takes more combos than other colors to actually eliminate the enemy. But it's not bad even so. Even though I have some of the most aggressive supporters, I'm receiving like, what, over 100% damage increase thanks to the supporters. Nice. I just charge. Perfect. And then I do this and done. Done. Yeah, pretty easy. She's extremely aggressive. She has no issues with HP recovery. Maybe at the beginning, but honestly, she has so much attack that it doesn't really matter. Let's see. Though it would seem that's not the case. Like the ability to freeze the enemies makes her able to do a ton of damage. Now, let's go with no. This one I'm going to manually do. We're gonna go with green. As usual, we're gonna go with a classic crit build because we can. But this is not going to be limited to crit builds because you can use the VR supporters. Let's see, where is my Suruga? I don't need Suruga, but I'll use Suruga. So, just to mention, you can use Ragnarok supporter, of course. It pairs pretty well with her, but she doesn't need this. It's okay to use it, but she doesn't need it because you don't get the most damage increase with this supporter. So that's something to take into consideration. But you constantly free the enemy, and that's nice. So it kind of balances itself by providing the freezing effect, but you already have enough freezing effect. So it's up to you whether to use it or not. You can use, of course, Core Phantasma. You can use Torajiro. You can use Misaki on VR. You can use Nano on any any kind of content. Ingrid is there, so there's a plenty of options. Also, the Onisaki Kirara. So, for skills, we just change this, and now, depending on your situation, similar to red, you may want to use Icicle Zone, or you may want to use Frost Wind. They give the same buff, but Icicle Zone is the better version because it has longer duration. But you have to use it on a perfect dodge. That's the disadvantage. While Frost Wind you can just use whenever you want. And you can use Freezing Slash. In this case, I'm gonna change Icicle Zone for Freezing Slash because my idea is just to delete the enemies ASAP. So what we do is that we position ourselves. We can do this. We can do the dash attack, and while the enemies are attacking, okay, no, okay, I'm gonna do it one more time. Yeah. Ah no, it's Frostwind. It's Frostwind because I'm going with a more active approach. So yeah, I forgot. I was thinking about using the perfect dodge, but that you would do with a perfect dodge. In this case, you do whichever attack you want in whichever order, but at the very end, you use Snowstorm. Just keep that in mind. So this, and it doesn't matter as long as I do this at the very end. Nice. Yeah. With only one activation of the skill, I was able to defeat the enemy. Okay, nice. I do this, and lastly, I do this one, which is going to destroy the mobs. And it also destroyed the boss. Okay. Wasn't expecting it, but okay. So yeah, you can see that Shinmari is just busted. But we're not done yet! Yeah, I have this one. She is so busted that she can win without her niche. Yeah, she can win without using freeze. And we're gonna go rainbow for that. We're gonna be using freezing spear with freezing slash to increase damage and also the basic enhancer. Preferably, you go double green with either red or blue, and you equip either Frostwind or preferably Icicle so that you're able to freeze the enemy and heal yourself. That would be the best scenario. But here I want to go rainbow. So we're gonna go really aggressive with New Year Felicia, Barretta, and Akane, Misaki. So in case you don't have the best weapon with the best enchantment, change that Akane for something that increases your critical rate. Maybe, for example, a Suruga. A Suruga is a great option. So, yeah, keep that in mind. It's gonna be extremely easy and extremely silly. Unfortunately, this one requires proper positioning. That's the only disadvantage about this particular build. And I just do this, and we can see that the enemies are done. Yeah, so one more time. I do this, double dash behind, and I position myself so that the enemies get attacked. And woof. Oh, come on, really? Oh, don't move, Edwin. Don't move. I want to have fun. I want to have fun destroying you. As you can see, pretty aggressive, even though I'm not using the freeze. Oh, yeah. Disgustingly funny. Oh, yeah. Nice. So, I'm not gonna use the ultimate here. Because I can. I buff myself, and then I attack. And I position myself so that they go right to the attack. And I position myself and... yeah, it didn't hit, but whatever. It doesn't matter. As you can see, I am almost done. And I didn't even need to use the active of my supporter so that I could heal. Yeah, she's strong. God. Really strong. But we're not done yet. We have even more. Yeah, that's right. We're gonna go here to Quincanaloa and we're gonna do step 100. Yeah, that's right. Because we can. Here, I am not using the best supporters. Oh, by the way, before I even try this, you can use Ragnarok as a super armor break supporter using a triple color build. I would use... yeah, I would use... where is she? Misaki. Yeah. So she should look something like this. Though she doesn't have any trait enhanced by these passives, she gets the ability to break super armor, and she's pretty good at that. And you're gonna equip Freezing Spear with Freezing Slash, and on the third one you're gonna put Frostwind. Why Frostwind? Just because of the multi-hit and the ability to activate it yourself, because you transition into these skills and the enemy is not going to move. I tried to use this on step 100 and the enemy was immobilized, like perma immobilized, but I didn't have damage because I'm using this team and these are supporters, they are not damage dealers. If you do this, you want to use two aggressive supporters, no, two aggressive damage dealers with this one because she's gonna perform pseudo damage dealer and supporter role at the same time. So that's something to take into consideration. But right now, I'm gonna show you the build. Starting with Tokiko. Tokiko is my classic debuffer Tokiko mechanical dart knife with anti-demon, wind magatamas, whatever weapon, magpipe, clairvoyance, blast to reduce defense and keep yourself away from the enemy. Then here I'm using Sora along with Misaki and White Knight Asagi. Stats of the customs and stats of the stat training. Felicia. Felicia is my healer. You should go with Lapis, but I'm going with Felicia because I'm using the stat training. I'm getting skill points for the stat training. So she's going with the limited weapon, but it doesn't really matter. Whatever anti-demon magatamas, whatever weapon, whatever supporter. Evil, Strange, Vampiric Zone, Bloodsight, classic blue Felicia build with Heviko. Sorry. So Heviko is really important against Queen Kanaloa because with the active she can remove the buffs, so keep that in mind. Then this provides defense and damage at the same time, Onigumo and Arabella. You need dead damage because you heal with the damage you inflict. Stats of the customs, stats of the stat training, and let's go with that Ragnarok. For this one, I'm gonna show you how busted the weapon is. 4 out of 5, plus 15. This has a unique effect, which is Deep Freeze, and it's extremely useful and extremely important. Unfortunately, no other weapon or supporter or anything else has this effect in the game. I hope they add more things that are not paid wall with this effect. Because it is really important for players to be able to use this. It is just broken and pretty good for the most part. So, fire, anti-demon magatamas, whatever weapon on the sub-slot, Storage Storm, Icicle Zone, and Frostwind. I can actually change Frostwind for Freezing Slash because, as previously mentioned, wait, I am not. Because I'm using this weapon, I'm actually going to keep Frostwind because for the most part, it's going to be a rare occurrence for me to use Ice On, but it is there. If you want to change Ice On for Freezing Slash, that's a great idea. I just have it for emergency situation, let's say it that way. Core Phantasma, so that we constantly remove the invincibility. Misaki and Fumasaika. Then stats of the skins, stat training, and let's go. So, let me show you how busted this is. I decided to do the normal builds with without the weapon, and VR with the weapon. This weapon is particularly good on VR because it provides penetration. I was doing some testing and I thought that this was going to be extremely busted on Total War, but it seems to be not the case. The theory would say so, because when the enemy is frozen, it gets double damage. It's either the AI or something else. I have to do more testing to find out what exactly is not making this as proficient as the theory would suggest. So, well, in any case, you can see that I deal a ton of damage pretty fast. Honestly, I have done the Queen Kanaloa on step 60 like under a minute, and that's pretty nice. And also use the ultimate, why not? Because we can, and it deals even more damage, remember that. Nice. Don't you want to do an attack? Yes, like that. Perfect. Very good. Excellent. And look how Queen Kanaloa stays in place. There's people who think that the weapon isn't as good because it has low percentage to activate a deep freeze. But the thing is that most of Ragnarok's skill have such a disgusting amount of multi-hits that it doesn't really matter. So yeah, and most of her multi-hit attacks do freezing. So yeah, she's busted. Really, really busted. Now, let's go to the weapons and let's analyze what she has in stock. So, I go over here very quickly. Let me just check the time. Yeah. So, over here, and I put Ingrid. Where's Ingrid? Ingrid. Yeah, because she shares weapons. So, first of all, she has the blue lightsaber, which is a crit weapon. Extremely good. It deals so much damage. So you can equip this and go with a crit bit for normal content. You cannot use this on VR, unfortunately. Then, we also have the Momochi weapon. Pretty nice due to the amount of multi-hits. It's a great option. Then we have Candy Saber. Pretty good when fighting against the demon. Then we have the let's see, the demon weapon. As usual, pretty bad. Don't use this. Then we have the snake weapon. Could be used for ulti spam because of her high amount of multi-hits. Even so, I wouldn't recommend it. But I think she has a lot of potential for red ulti spam. That's my opinion. Because of the speed increase, it pairs well with the basic enhancer. Then we have Leviathan or something like that. It is the pack weapon. It is paintball. You cannot get other copies, and you have to use Demonite to enhance this, which is a shame. But it is an extremely busted weapon for VR, also for normal content and tower. Not Total War, in my opinion, or so far. It seems is not as busted as I thought. So keep that in mind. Then we have Frigid Elivagara, which freezes the enemy when the enemy is frozen. When the enemy is frozen, increases your damage against all enemies 28% at max S level for 3 seconds, and it has the ability to use 5 particles to deal damage twice or maybe more. But it is not as busted. It honestly is just a nice skin, to be perfectly clear. So yeah, let's finish this by doing a quick summary. So, Ragnarok. Is she good? Is she bad? Is she a must-have? Yeah, she's a must-have. She's a must-have for any player, particularly useful for newer players. There has been people doing runs when they are leveling up this character, and she's performing extremely good. Should you buy the pack? If you're willing to spend Demonite on that weapon. Her character pack weapon has a particular situation because it has normal stat weapons. It is not SR stats. All the previous weapons used to have SR stats, and I like that change. But I don't like that they put the super busted effect on that one. Pay to win situations and stuff. Well, you should definitely get this one. She's very distracting, as you can see, and she's extremely good to use on any color, even rainbow. She's pretty good if she's strong enough to deal good damage. She constantly freezes the enemies. She has good effects. Her commands, her activation commands are extremely easy to use. She doesn't have like a horrible counter skill. I love that. She lacks a recovery skill because she has recovery integrated into her kit. So, yeah, guys. Is this gonna be the new meta character? Well, we'll see about that. For PvE, she's pretty good, I can tell you that. For PvP, she could be good if you're using this, because it's gonna be pretty oppressive. But, well, let me know in the comments what you think. Let me know in the comments if you're buying the pack or if you're not because you're displeased about the pay to win situation with this weapon. Or if you are gonna get this character when she's F2P and she's available with gems. Do you have something in particular that you want to use her with? A particular build? Do you want to abuse Freeze with the supporters? Because there's plenty, well, not plenty, there's a handful of supporters that are able to use Freeze. So keep an eye on that. And that's about it for today. I hope you find this useful, and I'll be seeing you next time. Bye!